Speaking of morons, new automotive, the ZEV mandate is working. The ZEV mandate is working. Industry is on course to meet 2025 targets and discounts are readily affordable. This is the fourth in a series of blogs which summarises New Automotive's response to government's consultations on phasing out sales of new petrol and diesel cars from 2030 and supporting the ZEV transition. You can find a summary of our consultation response elsewhere on the New Automotive website, as well as the earlier blogs and the later ones when we get round to them. Our first three blogs focused on the parts of the government consultation which considered what vehicles should be sold in the UK from 2030. Government didn't have to consult on this, just as it didn't consult on the original 2035 switchover date, moving it forward to 2030 or moving it back to 2035 again. No doubt, however, many will be grateful for the opportunity to air views, even if we are all ultimately looking for a swift resolution and certainly for consumers and industry. Why, however, are we having this consultation on the potential of further support for the motor industry or regulatory flexibilities, dilutions for car makers to meet the ZEV mandate? The decision rested on four planks. Well, from what I can see, there's plenty more planks work at New Automotive, that many manufacturers will fall short of the ZEV mandate targets and will incur huge fines. The estimates of organisations like New Automotive, which show otherwise, are unreliable. I've asked to see their estimates on many occasions in forums, emailed them, tweeted them, contacted them on LinkedIn, and all they sent back eventually, after I kept doing it every day, was a very evasive comment which meant nothing. And I've asked them to either show the workings out, how they've got to the conclusion that the UK has hit the ZEV mandate, show their workings out, or withdraw the comments and print a retraction. I've asked them again. When they replied to me, I said, I want to see the workings out. If you claim it, you could claim anything. Anybody could. But you've got to have proof. And if you can't provide the proof, or you're unwilling to provide the proof, then don't say it. Because it's a non-thing. That even if manufacturers have met the targets in 2024 through a massive strain, 2025 will definitely be impossible. They didn't meet the targets in 2024, just to clear that up. You said they did, but again, you haven't produced any workings out. How persuasive are each of those arguments? Not very. No manufacturers will pay fines. Our bulletin, catch 22%, oh, very clever, explains the system which allows firms to lower their targets by transferring credits for outperformance of their petrol, diesel and hybrid PHEV sales against easy-to-beat 2021 standards. Easy to beat. Okay, I've asked you, if it was easy to beat, you've worked it out, show us. Let's see you working out. How many low-emission petrol and diesel and PHEV vehicles did they have to sell to meet the target? How many? Just say it. Just you don't have to go into great detail. Just put a number. Let's see how many. Don't forget, the ZEV mandate is to stop them selling petrols and diesels. They want to be selling electrics. So actually having to sell more petrol and diesel kind of defeats the object. Plot of OEMs over and underperformance against ZEV mandate targets. Chart 1. Underperformance against real 2024 ZEV mandate targets. That's in blue. New Automotive's assessment found that most manufacturers actually had real targets of 20% or less, whilst Toyota and Jaguar Land Rover's targets were below 10%. The weighted target across the whole of the automotive industry was 18%. Half of the largest 16 firms who make both ICE and battery electric vehicles beat their targets. The biggest shortfall for Mazda, who only have 1.4% share of the UK market, was 7 percentage points. And when Tesla, who only sell electric cars, and BYD, 90% of whose cars are battery electric, are taken into account, 19.7% of cars sold were battery electric vehicles, but not from the people who don't only sell battery vehicles. Now we come to it. Cheating. When I did my exams at school, what I should have done, there was, gosh, I can't remember her name now. I think she was called Judith. She was really clever. How she was in our class, I'll never know. She was really clever. And she aced her exams. What I should have done then was said, well, Judith, for a pass, you have to get 60%. I've got 40. Judith's got 100. So give us 20% of Judith's. Everybody's happy. Judith, she'll get more friends because she won't be such a smarty pants. And I've passed my exam. But of course, we all know that targets don't work like that, don't we? Even these people at New Automotive know that targets don't work like that. This means there is a large glut of credits, which in turn means no firm will be required to make the maximum £15,000 buyout payments to government. It will be much cheaper to buy the credits from a firm which has outperformed targets and has no other use for them. So, the Chinese vehicles, I've said this before, Chinese vehicles are subsidised. They come over here. That sounds a bit racist, doesn't it? I don't mean it like that. Chinese vehicles are being sold in the UK market, being subsidised. They're undercutting the legacy manufacturers' prices, and then at the end of the year, the legacy manufacturers have to buy credits off them. So they've cost them a sale to start off with, and then to add insult to injury, they've got to buy credits off them so as they don't get fined £15,000. Only somebody who works at New Automotive could think that's right. Does anybody? But please tell me. Tell me I'm wrong. Is that right? How can it be right? If you've not done your target, then what's the point? What's the point of setting a £15,000 target when you have to pay China? I don't know why I'm laughing, because it's not funny. It's just not funny. The credits from a firm which has outperformed targets and has no other use for them. Well, surely they made profit on those vehicles, so why would you give them more? Estimates of real ZEV mandate targets are reliable. New Automotive's estimates are drawn from publicly available DVLA and DVSA data, the same sources as used by other bodies. Then show us them. Show us your figures. Oh, hang on. It's true that we've had to estimate the CO2 baselines. Which are used to calculate the outperformance of firms' ICE sales. So your figures aren't accurate. What you're saying there is your figures are wrong, unless miraculously you've guessed the figure. Your figures are wrong. Your calculations are wrong. used to calculate the outperformance of firms' ICE sales and by how much firms can thereby lower their ZEV mandate target. These have not yet been published due to a discrepancy between UK legislation and guidance. The DFT consultation, which seeks to address this discrepancy, provides a useful indicator of the level of uncertainty in CO2 baselines. So let me get this straight. You've given people a target, but they don't know what it is because you've got your figures wrong. Could it be any more stupid? Chart 2. Current uncertainty in industry-wide CO2 baselines. The current industry-wide uncertainty in baselines, which dictates how many CO2 credits firms can earn in outperformance, is 0.1%. Even for a big selling firm like BMW, this translates into a movement in its real ZEV mandate target of 0.02%. It has negligible effect on the results in chart 1. Levels of discounting are entirely sustainable. This is from a think tank who has nothing to do with the motor trade. And trust me, if you look at those people in new automotive, they wouldn't last a morning in a showroom. They would get shocked. They would go home crying. They would be torn to pieces. So don't you tell me that discounting is entirely sustainable, because I know it's not. I've worked at the sharp end, the pointy end of the stick. I've worked there, and trust me, I know all about discounts, what you have to do to get them, what you have to do to get your bonuses, because these days a lot of the garages work off the bonus. They don't work off the discount they get, they work off the bonus payments at the end. And the manufacturers realise that they've got you. They make you jump through hoops to get your bonuses. So you've not just to sell so many cars, you've got to hit your customer satisfaction index scores. And back in the Vauxhall days, when this first started with the CSI, we had a showroom and it had these terrazzo tiles on the floor. And at the time, I think they cost £9 each. One tile was, I'm sure it was £9. And it looked lovely. Vauxhall came along and said, we had wood panelling on the wall. I like wood panelling. We got wood panelling on the wall. Vauxhall came along and said, new corporate colours. You've got to paint your showroom battleship grey. You've got to put these rubber tiles on the floor. And then they came up with a killer. We just had a little office in the showroom, little office there, and parts department there. Another little office, wood panelled. You have to have a round desk. Square desks, rectangular desks, too confrontational. Head on. You've got to have a round desk. And they're £2,000 each when you buy them off us. You've got to have was it 2 blue stripes? I think, yeah, on the battleship grey, you had to have 2 blue stripes running around the showroom. And my boss said, no. No. Thanks very much, but no. If I wanted to spend all day in something that was painted grey, I'd join the Navy. So, thanks very much. Don't slam the door on your way out. And I think that was pretty much about it. Analysis provided to New Automotive by PHA Autodata, who supply target price data for what car? Do they sell cars? Because if they don't, you know what you can do with your figures. Autocar, do they sell cars? Have they worked in a showroom? Have they stayed till, I don't know, 9 o'clock on the last day of the month on the phone trying to agree a deal with somebody so they hit the targets. That's the overall target as a garage. Had they stayed there, working at night, trying to achieve the salesman's target? Let me just tell you a story. There are very few people that I really admire in the motor trade, and one of them is a lad called John Iowanu, and he's known as John the Greek, who worked at Glendon Motors with me. I went to Glendon Motors. At the time, I'd just packed my job in. I was looking through Auto Trader, and there was a job advertised, and it was, from memory, it was, are you in a rut or a grave? The only difference is the depth. Come and work for Glendon Motors. And I rang up and I said, you know, I'm looking for a job. Can you come and see us? Yeah, of course I can. So I went and they offered me the job there and then, and I started the next day. Now, all I wanted to do at the time was earn enough money to just keep going. My only aim in life at that time was to go to work and earn enough money to go out at night. So I went on commission only. None of the other lads were on commission only. They were on a basic wage and commission. But there was a guy there called John Iowanu, and everybody in Preston will probably know John. Grafter. Absolute grafter. He was married with a couple of kids. So I just had myself to look after. John had a wife, 2 kids. And he'd got his head screwed on. He was saving for a bigger house, he was saving for holidays, he was saving for his future, and he was putting money in his pension. He was a family guy. One night I was going out with John, and he hadn't quite done his target, so I was sat waiting for him, and he was on the phone trying to sell a car. The last thing, the end of the month, I think he'd done his target, but I think another car would get him onto the next band, which would mean you'd get more for each car you sold. So John used to prospect a lot. I never used to prospect. I just used to deal with customers coming in, never prospected. John had a stack of prospect sheets and he was going through these prospects, ringing people, seeing if he could get another deal. And I'm like, John, come on, it's, you know, they're open. Let's get going. So he gave me a stack of these prospect sheets. He said, here, you ring some. So I started ringing, and I think it was like the second call, and this guy said, oh yeah, he said, sorry, I've been meaning to get back to you. Yeah, I want to do a deal. And I remember thinking then, wow, there's something to this prospecting. Did a deal, and then me and John went out for a beer. You see, when people tell me that What Car, an auto car, shows that the current average transaction price is £4,630 per car, compared to £4,336 in January 2020, pre-pandemic levels, I can tell you that's garbage. And don't believe me, just go on Auto Trader. Just look at electric cars. Just look at the discounts being offered for electric cars. And also just look, even better, look at the used ones and see how much the used ones are going down. And you will see that their figures, New Automotive's figures, Autocars and What Cars figures, they are talking through their backside. The current manufacturer support estimate is therefore shown below. We include the inflation-adjusted 2020 figures as a handy comparison. Garbage. Plot of total discounts adjusted for inflation, chart 3. Aggregate value of UK car discounts in 2019 and 2024. In billions, 2024 prices. The inconvenient truth is that the real terms value of discounting today has actually fallen on pre-pandemic levels. Manufacturers sold cars for higher margin through the pandemic and subsequent inflation and supply chain crisis, but these were anomalies. The re-emergence of a more normal car sales market has seen support offered through discounting return to normal pre-pandemic levels. Just as 2024 targets proved to be meetable, So are those in 2025. The 2024 target wasn't the headline 22%, but when flexibilities are taken into account, closer to 18%. So cheating? No, it was 22%. The 18% is a cheat figure. The real target of 28% for 2024 looks like being closer to 23%. The good news is that industry is already meeting that target and has been over the past 6 months. No, it's not. With a battery electric market share of 23.4%. Plot of ZEV mandate over under compliance by OEM chart 4. Over green, under red. Performance against the real 2025 ZEV mandate targets blue over the past 6 months. 4 of the largest 10 car manufacturers, including VW Group, which sold more EVs than second place Stellantis and third place Hyundai. The head of Stellantis has recently done an interview with a French newspaper, Les Echos, in which he said there is no real demand for EVs. And third place Hyundai put together are in credit. When Tesla and BYD are taken into account, we're again on course for excess of credits. No, we're not. We're on course for restricting supply of petrol vehicles, which you can sell at a profit, and pre-registering a load of low-emission petrols and hybrids that are also clogging up dealers, so they can't actually concentrate on selling vehicles which make them money. It's them, not us. So what is all the fuss about? In essence, this has nothing to do with the ZEV mandate. The UK hosts some lagging manufacturers. Since when has anybody anywhere in the world been able to tell manufacturers what they must make and sell? Imagine toy manufacturers. I'm sorry, you can't make Action Men anymore because they're too like, God, what's the word? Well, you can't call them Action Men anymore. You've got to call them Action Them. Okay? Action Them, not men. When has that ever happened? But these people, I mean, looking at them, yes, they do look like they're told what to do. And they don't question it. They're given a job, told what to do, and they get on with it. Host some lagging manufacturers. For any of these firms to claim the demand isn't there for EVs is a nonsense. They are a think tank. Every single year, we've missed the ZEV mandate and we have to discount by billions of pounds, pre-register, sell them as used to get anywhere near the target. But for any of these firms to claim the demand isn't there for EVs is a nonsense. One half of Jaguar Land Rover has never yet produced an EV. The other half has elected to stop selling any cars in 2025. Look how well that's gone for them. Really pear-shaped. Toyota, the biggest selling car maker in the world, produces one EV model. Well, what does that tell you? Toyota, the biggest selling car maker in the world, produces just one EV model. But they're the biggest selling car maker in the world. If the demand was there for EVs, then surely all the rest of them would be overtaking Toyota. The president of Toyota says that one EV is dirtier to produce than 3 hybrids. Who are you going to believe? This bunch of think tankers Think tankers is a good word. That could be my next favourite Cockney rhyming slang. To cattle trucked produces just one EV model. Finally, Nissan, which offers only 2 EVs, one very dated. Now let's just go over this as well. The Nissan Leaf. Nissan produced a Nissan Leaf. They were way ahead of everybody else. Don't you think if the Nissan Leaf had been successful and they were making money hand over fist, don't you think that Nissan would have replaced all their vehicles with EVs? Does that not seem strange to you that they didn't? Why would they not? One very dated and the other which is overpriced. Now, I'm assuming that they're talking about the Nissan Ariya there, which I've just looked here before, overpriced. Nissan Ariyas save $7,083. So there you go. That was like a 50 grand vehicle, some 4,915 miles. First into stock, 6th of the 2nd, 2025. They've had it in stock nearly 12 months and they've reduced it by £15,213. No doubt, new AutoMotive and the Climate Intelligence Unit will be telling you that you can save £1,500 a year by running one of those as well when the dealers reduced it by £15,000, because like everything else they say, it's all rubbish. Overpriced and unpopular is having a global crisis that has nothing to do with the ZEV mandate. What Nissan really needs is not protection from the ZEV mandate, but from a competitive global market. Well, I can't remember the last time I've sold a Nissan and anything went wrong with it. Honestly, our valeter drove from the UK to Mongolia in a £500 Nissan Micra. I bought my sister, albeit it was a lovely car, a Nissan Micra, well over 10 years ago, as a stopgap. She's still running it today. Don't be calling Nissan, because if you do, you don't know what you're talking about. Given that the UK government can't help with that, again, their tone and attitude, its best bet is to fund a bailout, support a restructure, or help with finding a buyer for the Sunderland site. The worst thing it can do is to shaft the manufacturers, who have been investing in good faith, the charge point and infrastructure providers, and our future clean air commitments by weakening the ZEV mandate.